This series is sometimes hard to make because there aren't any good games on sale, and other times it's hard to make because there's too many good games on sale. And today we've got the latter, which I guess is a nice thing. I totally forgot to put our winner of last week's free game in the top pinned comment, so this week we'll have two. And to be in with the chance of winning a free game each week, just tickle the algorithm and enter a comment down below. What are the best games on sale? Well, let's find out. This episode has been sponsored by one of the coolest things I think I've used in a long time. It's called the VITURE One, and it's essentially a giant TV inside a set of glasses that you can attach to your Nintendo Switch. But it's not just that, you could attach it to your Steam Deck or anything else that uses a HDMI. The XR glasses have a magnetic connector on the ear, the myopia adjustments, native 3 depth of field, native 3D video support, you can calibrate the colors naturally, and a built-in volume control, all the while consuming so little power they literally last for hours on end. Now, I received the VITURE One dock pack, which includes the glasses, a case, the power bank and dock combo, which can actually attach to the back of the console, and a load of different nose pieces so that you can get it nice and comfy. When I put the glasses on, I see a 120-inch TV floating in the air. It's 1080p, 60 FPS, so perfect for the Switch. And believe it or not, it has Harman sound built directly into where your ears are through these small speakers. This will provide 6 hours of Nintendo Switch battery life, and you can obviously do it wherever you are. Now, one thing that's worked well for me is using this at night time. It means that you don't disturb anyone else with your bright lights. With this same setup, you can connect 2 pairs of glasses, which means you can play multiplayer games together, or you could watch a film. I literally use these every night in bed. You can grab your own dock pack and you can get 10% off with our code, and that gets you the XR glasses and all of those extra goodies so that you can run it wherever you are. Check them out with our links in the description and the top pin comment, and a thanks to VITURE for sponsoring this episode. First up, I have to mention Ori, the Will of the Wisps and the Blind Forest. You can pick both of those up for just £8.73, which is a complete bargain. These are the best Metroidvanias, or at least some of the best Metroidvanias we've got on Switch. Now, the usual question I'd get asked here is, do I need to have played the first one to buy the second one? And I'd probably reply, you should, but you don't need to. It's all set in and around the Forest of Nibble, and it grabs your heartstrings and tries to tear them out within the first 5 minutes. It really does set the scene well and make you care about the characters. These games run incredibly well on the Switch, both in docked and handheld, and they're certainly memorable. I think there's quite a few people, I know I always see it, who actually preferred this to Hollow Knight. So if you're after a large open world with that fantastical setting and a cracking soundtrack to boot, I would definitely pick both of these up. Blue Fire was essentially Hollow Knight in 3D, or so I thought when I started to review it, but actually it's quite different. It does have those open world adventure elements, but there are also platforming challenges that you can go into, and I was really impressed that a small team could pull it off. It's developed by Roby Studios and published by Graffiti Games. They've managed to make 3D platforming feel quite precise, which is a challenge in and of itself, and there were a few boss fights that took me a good few attempts to beat them, but I wouldn't say this is the hardest game. Certainly with a bit of patience you'll nail it, but some of those optional platforming challenges, yeah, they will certainly give you a bit of a run for your money, that's for sure. At £6.11, that's 66% off. It's the cheapest it's ever been. Certainly one to consider. This little gem seems to have popped up a few times recently, and the price is just getting lower and lower. It's such a good top-down Zelda clone, but with a real comedy twist, and it's Turnip Boy commits tax evasion. It's down 66% to just over £4, and that's until June the 22nd. It's developed by Snoozy Kazoo, probably the greatest developer name of all time, and it's only short at about 4 hours, but sometimes I think the best games are. Now, the main character fails to pay his taxes, upsetting, and has to go on an epic quest to repay Mayor Onion. There are other people you'll encounter along your way. I say people, it's more like fruit and veg, and yeah, it's a charming little one. There is a physical of this that's usually available for cheaply, but if you're a digital buyer, then 66% off. As I say, cheapest it's ever been until June the 22nd. It was actually one of you that recommended Lonely Mountains Downhill to me when it first came out. You were saying it was amazing. I'll be honest, I completely ignored you because I was so busy. I thought I can't be adding another game to my backlog. When I did eventually get a code for it, I was really surprised by how well designed it was. It's very, very addictive, but it also controls so well that there's that one more play element to it. You're bombing your way down a mountain, trying to beat the best times. It just really surprised me how much fun it was. There's also quite a bit of DLC, which I didn't realise. That'll add new stages to the game, and quite a bit of that's free as well, so make sure you download it. Right now it is the cheapest it's ever been, £7.19. Lonely Mountain Downhill was developed by Megagon Industries, fits into 1.1 gigs, and is on sale until July the 2nd. Remothered Broken Porcelain isn't a bad little third-person horror game. What most people don't realise is that when it launched though, it was one of the worst looking games I've ever seen. Like, it was terrible, and I think for that reason nobody covered it. There were a number of patches. I'm not saying it's an oil painting now, but it's much better than it was, and it's down to £2.99, which is a crazy cheap price. That's 90% off. As for the game, I haven't finished it. I'm not a huge horror fan, as you know, but it's actually quite well liked. And if you're a fan of survival horror, then this one might appeal to you. It has elements of stealth in there, so you'll need to use the shadows to stay hidden, as well as throwing in a few puzzles. I mean, it sounds a lot like Resident Evil. I've been playing through a lot of the games at the moment. I just beat that hideous spider boss on Resident Evil 7. Ugh. Awful spider lady, really, isn't it? She's a right wrong'un. But Remothered Broken Porcelain at 90% off until June the 15th may tickle your fancy if you are slightly unusual. Them's Fighting Herds is a quality premise, isn't it? It's essentially My Little Pony, but in a beat 'em up. I haven't seen this one on sale before. I think it's had maybe one minor sale before, but now at 50% off until June the 15th. This was one that Glenn reviewed for us on the channel, and it has a full-on story mode, and actually I believe it's the same artist that did the My Little Ponies. You'll have to correct me if I'm wrong. There's online matchmaking, there's quite a bit of DLC if you really get into it, but by all accounts it's a decent little 2D fighter that was developed by Main 6 and uses a 4-button fighting system, magic, enhanced super attacks, and all those good things that you fighting fans enjoy. Now, I'm rubbish at these, I always get wrecked when I play against Glenn, but this looks quite tasty. That sale goes on, as I say, until June the 15th. They Always Run is the epitome of a hidden gem, in my opinion. You play as a 3-armed bounty hunter, and it's a 2D action game where you are, well, going after those bounties. That third arm isn't just for show as well. You can actually use it for some of your abilities, and can throw enemies around with it, as well as use it to solve certain puzzles. There's a bit of RPG in here. You can upgrade your equipment, you'll get new abilities, and it's got a decent little storyline. Yeah, something quite well. I remember we talked about this a little bit a few months back when it was released, but yeah, I say that's going to be a nice little surprise for some of you. The price is £10.70, it's 30% off until June the 10th. The Outstanding Vernal Edge is finally on sale. It's 20% off until June the 10th, and I think we're one of the only channels to have reviewed this. It's such a cool Metroidvania. So you're on these floating planets, or not floating planets, they're more like archipelagos, floating islands, and to move between them you've got this airship that you can control, and it looks like a PlayStation game. But I was so impressed with this very small team. I think it was like one bloke, and what he designed. It's just a slick Metroidvania. It looks good, it plays well, it's got a good bit of humour in there as well. The writing's actually, well, it actually makes sense, and there are a few little twists and turns. It's not stupidly difficult either, which is quite a nice thing, honestly, and it all fits into a real small download size of 806 megs. Yeah, highly recommend this. Really loved it. Check out our review if you want a bit more information. That sale for Vernal Edge goes on until June the 10th at 20% off. The excellent, and if I'm honest, I think a bit underrated, Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion is on its cheapest ever price at the moment. It's 30% off, down to $34.99 or your regional equivalent. And I was pretty blown away by how well this ran on Switch, honestly. I know Square seem to have quite a good track record, but still I didn't expect it to look as good as it does. Now, obviously, compared to, say, a PS5 or PS4 even, some aspects might look a little downgraded, but yeah, it runs well, it plays well, and if you like a more action-oriented Final Fantasy title, then this might be a good one for you. It's one that I'd say you've got to see it out to the conclusion, because it can feel a bit strange for a Final Fantasy game to be mission-based, but it still manages to tell a really cool story, and you see a different side to Soldier. So yeah, well worth it in my opinion. It's 14 gigs, about 20-25 hours, but way longer if you want to see and do everything, and that sale goes on until June the 13th. Alright, before we go on to our Savaloy selection then, we've got our hidden gem. And there are other good games on sale. Things like the Riser series are all on sale at the moment. A lot of the Square games and the Crisis Remastered trilogy, they're all on sale, but they're not a hidden gem, so I don't want to talk about them. And I'm going with Space Tale, Every Journey Leads Home. Now this base version is on sale in the US regions at 50% off, or the Digital Deluxe Edition is on sale in the EU regions, so everyone has a chance to pick it up. It's a really interesting take on the Metroidvania, obviously featuring a dog called Bee, and I love some of the little animations they've included. She travels through space. You get to visit lots of different planets, and it uses her dog senses, essentially her canine senses, to help you find certain items in the world. There are little logic puzzles in there. It's got a nice soundtrack. It's just a sad time that it came out at a time where it just didn't get any coverage. We didn't even cover it, and I was annoyed because I really wanted to review this one. It's a fun little game, and yeah, one to consider as a bit of a hidden gem. That sale's 50% off until June the 7th. Alright, that takes us on to our SwitchUp Savaloy selection, which is a few games that are less than the price of a lovely red Savaloy. Don't ask me how this series even started. I don't know how this happened, but it seems to work well if you're looking for a bit of a bargain. And then afterwards we'll look at a game you should avoid because it's rubbish. First up, we've got SteamWorld Dig. Great game. Down to £1.34. That is such a bargain. It takes elements of like the Dig Dug. Is it Dig Dug? I'm sure that was the name of the game back in the day. But it's like elements of that with a Metroidvania fleshed out. And although it's only like 6 hours long, it's really well done. And the sequel is absolutely banging as well. So you can consider that one, although it's not quite Savaloy price. Then you've got Rustler, the old top-down GTA clone at £2.49, that's 90% off. It's an alright game, it's not the best in the world, it's not going to set the world on fire. But if you want a bit of a laugh and play an old-school GTA clone with a horse, then yeah, that might be a good one for you. Fellow point-and-click and adventure fans, you're going to really like Lost Worlds Beyond the Page. It's just £1.79, that is an absolute bargain. 85% off, that's crazy. It's really nice, looks lovely as well, and it features, if I'm not mistaken, from I did review this one, it's written by the daughter of Terry Pratchett. I'm almost certain on that. And yeah, you like skip through the pages of the diary and stuff like that. Yeah, it's really cool, but it does kick you in the emotion box quite a few times, dealing with loss and other things. The emotion box. Sounds painful. And then finally another adventure, completely bizarre. It's Apocalypsis, the Wormwood edition. It's currently £1.34. It's another one of those disturbing adventures that makes you feel like you're in a fever dream. But I absolutely love the art style on this one. And you play as Harry, who has lost his beloved, and he goes on this adventure to try and get her back. I think the artwork was based on like medieval art, and this one includes the DLC, which was called One Night in the Woods, and I haven't actually played that bit. It adds in a prequel story, I think. So yeah, there we go. All that's left to say is you should definitely avoid Zorro the Chronicles. It takes a popular franchise and it turns it into an adventure game where you play as Zorro and they strip all the life and fun out of it, and it fell flat for a reason. It's just unfortunately not very good. Not the worst game I've ever played, and you know, if you found it for like a couple of quid then crack on, but it's never a couple of quid, and its base price of £35 is a little bit of a joke. So that's it for this week. As always, if you want to buy physical games, you can save a bit of money, and there are some really good deals on physicals actually I haven't even spoken about. Here in the UK, Amazon, you can get Nier Automata at about 24 quid. Oh, and I've just seen Ni no Kuni 2 is on sale as well. I should have spoken about that. But yeah, that's physically 14 quid at Amazon. I better stop before I get carried away. Thanks to all of you that enjoy this video on a Sunday. It's nice to get together. And as always, a big thanks to our Patreons and our members. And for all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers, guys. See ya!